Welcome to Combos from the Couch by LifeStance Health, where leading mental health professionals help guide you on your journey to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Combos from the Couch. I'm Nicolette Lianza, and joining me today are Dr. Natalie Grandy. Hey, Natalie.
Hi, Nikki.
Isabella Lombardo. Great to see
Hi.
you, Isabella.
Good to be back.
And Courtney Eng. Welcome to the show, Courtney.
Hi, I'm super stoked to be here.
Definitely. Thank you. Today, we're exploring how collectibles like Labubu dolls support mental health by creating comfort and fostering connections. So, for those who may be unfamiliar, Labubus are plush toy monsters that are made by the Chinese toy company Pop Mart. And people are buying some of these trendy collectibles for hundreds of dollars. So let's dive into why collectibles like these mean so much to so many people. Courtney, let's actually have you tell us a little bit more about the history of Labubus.
Yeah, so they've been around for a while, but they only recently became very popular with the rise of trinkets in general. But I think specifically for Labubus, they rose to popularity because for all my K-pop stands out there, Blackpink's Lisa took a picture with one, and people obviously they feel connected to the idols that they like, and so they like what they like, and that just continues to foster that parasocial relationship also with not just Labubus but also other people who collect them.
And I feel like throughout the years, we've had different forms of Labubus, meaning other things that were collected. And so I'm trying to think, oh my gosh, why are Webkins coming in? What were the other things? There were so many other things throughout the
There's
years
like
that,
Tamagotchis.
right.
I remember as a kid, it was Puppy in My Pocket. And they
Oh,
were also like the surprise. You didn't know what was in them. They were like a buck, and you try to
right.
collect them all.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
many things.
it's wild. The thing is, there was like the Beanie Babies, there was like
Yes.
Furbies, but the thing is, it's wild of this kind of pattern has existed for a while in just, I think, just history in itself. Because I think one of the first times that a trend like this kind of existed, and it was like almost like the tulip craze and Dutch, I think back maybe in the
Oh,
1800s, don't quote me on that, but it's like where like it was a status symbol, right? Nobility had this beautiful flower, and then suddenly there was a way to have that power status transfer by getting the bulb because it grew faster than if you were to start from a seed. And then I think like literally the costs skyrocketed. People were buying a bunch, and then similar to Beanie Babies, similar to other trends like that, eventually the cycle swings on back down.
wow. I actually never knew that
I
about the tulips. Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to think of was Beanie Babies when I said Webkins, but yeah, yeah,
Close
very,
enough.
very cool. Yeah.
Webkins too, right? Like that, it's the same idea, right? Like
Yeah,
collectibilism and just being able to share it with, oh, I like this one. This one's me.
I think
definitely.
too, like they all have in common, there's something hard to get about them, like certain
Yeah.
ones. And there's that hit of, will I get a really valuable one? I think about my husband. He collected basketball cards as a young kid. He's gotten back into that again. It's the same idea. You get these packs, who knows what's in it? And but you
Right.
might get a really valuable one. You
Right.
might be able to trade that and get some status for it. I think we're all kind of wired for this kind of thing.
Oh, definitely. And I think that the Labubu trend definitely does that aspect as well, where you're opening up some of those mystery packs and
Right, like
stuff
the
like that,
blind
those
Yeah.
gotchas.
boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, very fascinating stuff for sure. So, how do collectibles serve as comfort objects, especially for people dealing with like stress, anxiety, or loneliness? So, here, Courtney, let's have you start us off with that.
I think, right? Like they naturally like we see ourselves in whatever we're collecting, right? Like they naturally because they tend to be, especially for these kinds of objects, right? Like they're soft, they're comforting, right? Like they are naturally objects of comfort just because of the nature of what they are. And like it's almost yeah, like having being a little kid and having like your support blankie, but just now
Right.
you're an adult. Like this is your adult version.
Oh, good way to put it for sure. Isabella?
Yeah, definitely. They're even beyond kind of the bubbles, right? Kids and collecting culture is not only is so vast, but also is so many sources of community. As when I was first exploring of what it would look like to hop in on the podcast sphere, like I'm a nerd, I'm in the Dungeons and Dragons and kind of geek culture spaces, which is built on a lot of kind of those aspects of collecting and community where they
Mm.
hang on to these, where even if it's, let's say, maybe not tapping into the physical comfort of you can't exactly cuddle with a Dungeons and Dragons mini and you'll end up getting stabbed in the cheek or something like that. But like in that aspect where there's almost like that nostalgia aspect,
Mhm.
the like the whimsy of it all and
Right.
just that excitement in it. So definitely there's that good old dopamine hit like in
Yep.
that different way, whether it be due to status or comfort. And like to have that level of community where it's like you can then foster friends to talk to, places to hang out, ways to trade, people then branch off and maybe engage with it more or in different ways. There's doll collecting, but
Mhm.
also there's doll customization where
Mhm.
people like take base dolls and they make it very personalized and it then can turn into something else entirely when maybe originally it started with collecting of look how cute this is.
Right, definitely. Natalie?
I agree with all of that. I think the only thing I would add is like the nuance of it. I always like to differentiate between using something as a crutch. I need this thing in order to feel okay. I need this or I can't deal with my stress. Versus having something that is meaningful to you, that you enjoy, that gives you
Mhm.
a sense of fun, that can build resilience in the
Right.
face of stress and fear. And as Isabella and you both pointed out too, I think the beauty of this kind of recording is that it involves other people. And so you can talk about them, and having a sense of community is also incredibly resilience creating. And so
Mhm.
people who have a sense of community, they do tend to do better when they face stress and go through anxiety provoking situations. The last thing I would just add that's interesting, Isabella, you mentioned the dopamine hit of
Mhm.
it. And I think too, when we're talking about people with depression, there's a dearth of dopamine. Baseline levels are much lower than they would normally be.
Mm.
One of the ways of treating that is to get dopamine up. So, especially people with vegetative depression symptoms, very, very
Good
low
point.
dopamine. And when you get their dopamine up a little bit, and that could come from being in a social environment, it could come from collecting something, it could come
Yeah.
from getting something that you really wanted for a while. What you find is that you get a little bit more energy. So it's not just, oh, I feel good, but that dopamine creates an energy burst. Our brains need dopamine in order to create
Mhm.
norepinephrine, which is adrenaline for the brain. And so if you're getting a little more of an energy boost, it can promote you going out and doing the next thing. So yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think these are wonderful tools.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. So, what's the psychology behind the gotcha surprise element in collecting? And how does this fulfill our need for joy and anticipation and that dopamine hit, we'll say? Courtney?
I mean, it is that, right? That dopamine hit, you don't know what you're gonna get, right? Like it is that because it's essentially gambling, right? It
Mm.
is gambling. You're spending money to get potentially get rewarded. And you're always up, of course, the box is gonna be empty, hopefully. You never know what you're gonna get, that anticipation of am I gonna get the like they have on the back of the box, like all of the ones that are in the box, and you're always like, oh, I hope I get this one's my second choice, right? And that anticipation of, oh, am I gonna get what I want or will I be
Right.
disappointed?
For sure. My gosh. Isabella?
I think also looping into that, like the almost like the status that comes with it too, in kind of some
Mhm.
areas where it's like when you, let's say you get not only that dopamine hit of, oh, which one am I going to get? But then if you somehow land the one, right? The
Boom.
one that is coveted, that like then not only like heightens on the basic, yeah, like this is cool level, but also, and then my friends will think I'm cool, and then other people will think I'm cool.
Right,
And it's
right.
that immediate, like, it escalates it beyond just with the gambling aspect. You have a similar thing. When you win big, then somebody like, they're the cool one in the room,
Yeah.
right? Or
Right,
whatever
right.
the
Yeah,
case is.
that's true.
But that is like more of kind of that once in every once in a while, if at all, for a lot of people. But like, even if you never ever get to that level, there's almost like that itch in the back of your brain of, but it could be.
Very true, very true.
Mhm.
Natalie?
Yeah, I would my sense is that these would not be a craze if it wasn't for the gotcha surprise
Wow.
element. Because it's so sticky. Like when you think, oh, I might get the next one, it makes you want more. The novelty of it, the anticipation of it, it's all wrapped up in it. And it doesn't mean what's interesting is like there's a difference between wanting something and liking something. Like you can want
Mhm.
something that you don't even really like that much. And I think that these really get you wanting more. And the cynic in me says it's an amazing marketing strategy because it really is. But I think
Right.
about like my husband with this. Like I said, he used to love collecting basketball cards. And then in adulthood, he got really into bourbon for a long time. And bourbon is this whole thing that's allocated now. And it's really hard to
Right.
find certain bottles.
Yeah.
And guys will
Fair.
trade bourbon with each other. And then over the last few years, he's gotten to a point where I don't really like drinking anymore. I think I'm going to stop drinking. And so he really doesn't drink anymore. But
Ah,
he still
gotcha.
wants to go to these stores when there's a release. He wants to go and he wants to see if he
Yeah.
can find a bottle. And he doesn't
Yeah.
even like it. So yeah, it's sticky.
It's like the hunt for it. Hunt for
Yeah,
the bottle
that's
of
it.
it.
That's it. And I think we
Yeah.
evolved for that.
The
The,
Yeah.
thrill
the
of the
reason that we
chase.
have a
Mm.
mesolimbic reward system in our brain, it's because like that next hunt, it might produce the big animal that's going to feed us
Mhm.
for a week. And
Mhm.
I think things like that, things like the Labubus, things like basketball cards, bourbon,
Right.
beanie babies, when there's
Right.
this sense of I might find the one, it gets sticky
Mhm.
and it's fun. I think it also needs to be put in the correct context. This
Mhm.
can get really sticky and we can maybe sometimes overspend on it because we get really caught up. I think, Courtney, you mentioned it's gambling. It is, which can be a great hobby for people. And it can go over the top for some people and sometimes.
Mhm. Very true. So, how does collectible culture in places like China and Japan reflect different approaches to self expression compared to Western contexts? Courtney?
Yeah, so I think typically Asian culture is thought to be collectivistic, right? Whereas Western culture, we tend to be a little more individualistic. And so, because of that, right, like your avenues of self expression in collectivistic cultures is limited
Yeah.
because you're expected
Yeah.
to look the same and act the same and be the same as everybody else because that's what the society and culture expects of you. But I think to some degree, if you're participating in a trend, like that is collectivism, right? Because you're
Mhm.
doing what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Following
Yeah.
trends is collectivistic, but in the same way, like with Labubus, like all the collectibles, right? Like it is very individualistic because each one is different. You get to
Hmm.
decide if I don't like it, I don't have to put it on my bag. I can just keep it in my room. No one sees it. If I find one that I like, I find one that's me, right? I get to decide how I express myself and put it on for other people to see. So they know what's important to me. They know, what I care about. They know what I have.
For sure. Isabella?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting to see, especially with just the onset of technology and how much the world itself has become
Hmm.
connected, how there's almost like a blending happening, right? Even I know Courtney had outlined earlier, like that tie to like K-pop, right? And it's like we see of like more and more, like instead of having kind of those segmented individual cultures, of course, like there is more and more of these spaces of the in between where it's that blending where like
Mhm.
these sometimes individualistic and then the collectivism like is blending. And it's cool to see like also because it is because tech, social media, we're
Yeah.
so connected to each other. We know what's going on at any
Right.
given point in time,
Very true.
like in any kind of point of the world. So then we get to have that blend where it's like the absolutely the kind of collectivism culture and everything like that. And it's like almost like the two difference, but then also in some ways becoming something new entirely and blending to instead of let's say it's more like a worldwide culture beginning to have advent in
Hmm.
some cases.
Yeah, I love that. A worldwide culture for sure. Thank you. Natalie?
I'm not sure I have much to add other than just to say I was struck at the very beginning when Courtney was explaining what the Labubus are. And she like gave a call out to something that I don't even know the name. I think you said call it to my K-pop people or my pop
Yeah,
friends.
my K-pop stands out there, my K-pop
Yeah.
girlies. Shout
Yeah.
out to
I
my
mean,
K-pop
like
girlies.
that's it, right? That's like you are calling out to people with whom you share a certain identity that I don't know. I didn't even know what word that was. But I think it just goes to show. I think there you can really can find a community of these kinds of things.
Natalie, you're a new mom, so it's okay that you're insulated right now in the world. Okay, it's all good. I swear the early 2000s for me, I didn't know what was going on outside of my own home and my 2 little children. So it's all good.
Bet you in 15 years I'll be up on all the trends.
There you go.
Yeah, the kids will keep you up to date.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. In what ways do collecting communities support emotional well-being and help people find belonging, especially for those who may be struggling with connection? Courtney?
Yeah, same thing. Like just going back to finding people who share your interests, right? Like K-pop stands, Labubus, right? Whatever it is, whatever ties you to other people, right? As an in, especially for people who are struggling, who perhaps now because it's trending, right? Labubus are like a mainstream interest, but before when K-pop was global, like Labubus, all that stuff, right? Like it was underground. You had to find
Yeah.
other people who shared those interests, and there were very few and far between, and those before the internet, so like you couldn't just hop on Instagram or
Right.
Twitter or wherever and hashtag Labubus, right? You had to go out of your way and find those people, and those had to be your people because no one else around you shared your interests.
Excellent point. Isabella?
Yeah, and it's like a quick way to get that aspect of community, right? Because I think sometimes special interests, like I'm very passionate about like the neurodivergence lens of kind of things. And when, let's say, somebody doesn't know how to engage in kind of certain social areas or kind of has kind of anxiety and maybe not always pick up on different elements, then having a special interest having an interest to tie to other people where, hey, I don't have to necessarily know all the details or know how to engage in this way, but we can absolutely talk about the doll, like the Labubu dolls we both wore. Like we can point to so many trends of that. Stamp collecting,
Yeah.
trains, right? There's again, I'm part of the geek communities, like any of the kind of geek stuff. But I think that it is now evolving way more kind of past just a neurodivergence lens because like in terms of kind of socialization, a lot of people are highly isolated, right?
Yeah.
We're like, we have this loneliness epidemic across many countries. People don't know how to find community. There's that lack of third spaces, meaning like we only go to work and home and
Yeah.
there's nothing in between. So people, I think, are starving for connection in so many ways. And especially in a world post COVID, right? Where there's still that anxieties of getting out and about and like figuring out how to navigate those structures where it's hard enough as an adult to do it, even in the best of circumstances, because then you're the ones responsible for finding your people. When we were younger in school, it was community of
Forced
location.
proximity.
Yeah, forced proximity, right? You didn't have to go out of your way because you be with somebody in homeroom or science class. But now, with everybody so segmented, it's like you gotta figure it out on your own. And especially not a lot of people are like really know how to do that, especially we were like separated from everybody for a period
Right.
of time, which then
Right.
worsened that divide even more. So then having that common thread, it helps make it easier to build those bridges, to find people, to find that support, which humans are social creatures. That's
Yep.
literally what we're wired for, right? Humanity, people survive or do best when we're together. That's how humanity got this far. Can't do
Right.
the big stuff. One person can't build a skyscraper, right? One person
Right.
can't build a neighborhood. One person can't farm enough food for kind of, let's say, an entire community. But
Right.
we just see that trend through history of humanity does best when we're together.
Mm.
That's how we keep moving forward. But especially when we have that isolated kind of space that we have more now, it's finding anything to almost tap into that again. And I think that's
Right.
something that a lot of humans are starving for.
Definitely. Definitely. Natalie?
I love going last because, like, you guys
You-
make it really easy for me. Everything that they said, yeah. No, one thing I absolutely hear a resounding refrain in my adult patients, which is like, how do I make friends?
Mm.
Like you were
Mhm.
saying, Isabella, it's really easy when you're young and you're all going to the same school or you're in college and you're all living together and doing the same things. And then you get into adulthood and it's holy cow, I've got 3 friends and they all live all over the country and I would like to make more. And I always tell my people, like, There's no easier way around it. You're going to have to get outside of your comfort zone. You're
Right.
going to have to try
Definitely.
new things. But I think having something that you feel comfortable about, something that you're passionate about, and then finding other people that have the same interest or passion can be a way of, yeah, still getting out of your comfort zone, but making it slightly more comfortable than it would otherwise be. And so, whether that's taking a dance class, joining a hiking group, joining a
Mhm.
gaming group, or collecting. So, yeah, if this sort of thing can get your foot in the door of meeting new people, I'm all for it. And I would always advocate for in person as much as possible rather than virtually, although maybe virtual is better than nothing at all.
Great point. Definitely. So, beyond material collecting, what are other ways we can build playful, authentic moments that nurture the same emotional joys without trying tying them to consumption? Courtney?
I think collecting is a good launching pad, right? Just as we've all been saying, as long some getting some kind of in, right, with your interests and some kind of way to start conversations with people. Just as Natalie was saying, right? Like whatever your interests are, like finding something to
Mm,
tie that into real world interaction, right? Like I know around here, like at least in New York, like there are so many Labu meetups. There's Labubu
yeah.
swapping. Like you can swap your Labubu with someone who might want to trade with you, right? And even if collectibles have to be the launching pad for actual interaction, I don't think that's bad either.
No, I agree. I agree. Definitely. Isabella?
Yeah, I think definitely I 100% agree with that because sometimes it is that launching pad, especially if we look at the environment that we're in, where a lot of our day to day is driven by what people buy, right? There is definitely more of a buy culture than, let's say, a make culture or a create culture. It's even all of us are used to those different commercials who are tapping into those dopamine kind of thing to
Hmm.
make sure that whether it be kind of Labubu, whether it be any, if you turn on a TV, especially around Christmas and see all of the children's toy ads, that is like making sure it's like hitting that kind of sound off of check it out over here. Like it's definitely something to be conscious of and to be aware of as we're getting into it a little bit. So then making sure that bridging that gap of bringing it outside of just that consumerism, bringing it outside of just buy for status or
Right.
to have and then let's say shove away and never look at it again. Like how many people have the miscellaneous drawers in their house where it has just like the random things you accumulate throughout the day in there. So it's like making sure engaging with it with the why, right? Why am I doing this? Is it just because to have, or it is that because I want to do something else, or because there's something else here, or because it'll allow me to get that into another space. And then letting ourselves explore those spaces because especially I know we were talking a little bit about that adulthood aspect of it. Like adults, we take ourselves way too seriously all of the time. So letting ourselves have that fun with it, letting ourselves have that flux with it, and where let's say we tap into that almost like inner child space again. So that could be, let's say, like Natalie said, like dance classes and letting ourselves
Right.
be free in certain things.
Yep.
It could be like the meeting up with some friends and that, or meeting up with new people and swapping the Labubus to be like, hey, you can check this out, you can check
Right.
this
Right.
out. Letting ourselves just, especially almost going back to that, we're back on the playground type energy.
Oh, definitely. And Natalie?
Yeah, I agree. I think I know you and I have talked about this before, Nikki. I think adults in our culture severely undervalue the importance of fun for fun's
Yeah.
sake.
Yep.
And I think
Yeah.
until we recognize that that is actually a really important part of what makes humans thrive, we're not
Mhm.
going to have conversations about what could truly be engaging, enjoyable, important. I think about animals, and I think we talked about this. Animals don't reach a certain age of adult and then stop playing. They
Right.
play
Right.
throughout. You got a dog back there at your house right now.
Yep.
They
Yep.
play throughout their
Yep.
lives. As humans, we have this sense of, all right, once you reach a certain age, if it's not going to help get you more money, if it's not going to be useful for your career, there's really no point. And so what do? We sit at home and we're like, gosh, I could really be doing something. I should do a hobby. Well, I like to paint. Let me try painting. But I think all my supplies are up in the upstairs closet and I don't really know where they are. I could pull them out and I could use them. Then I'd create a mess. I just have to put everything away again. Also, I'm not a very good painter. And so whatever I come up with, it's not like I'm going to be able to give it to anybody and I'm never going to be an artist. Why bother? And then we sit at home on our phones, binge
Right.
watching Netflix, and wonder why we're miserable. And it's like
Right.
maybe if we
Exactly.
spent a little bit of time getting curious about what could be purely fun, silly,
Yeah.
enjoyable, not for any purpose other than that I like doing it in my spare time, maybe your mental health would start to improve. Sometimes it's not about
Definitely.
eradicating depression or anxiety. Sometimes it's about creating feelings of zest and engagement and
Yeah.
enjoyment. And I believe the most fun that we have involves an element of connection with other people, certainly an element of playfulness. There's no high stakes. It's okay to
Right.
mess up, it's okay to
Right.
trip over yourself. And then an
Great.
element of
Yeah.
flow. You're not thinking about anything else except for what you're doing in that moment. And
Definitely
anything that
that.
can help engender those qualities, I am on board with.
Definitely for sure. Anyone have anything else they'd like to add?
I think there's that aspect too of like when we are allowing ourselves that freedom and that play, it's like it is so freeing. And I think there's a saying that kind of goes around the internet to sometimes where it's like to be cringe is to be free. So let that weight of expectation fall off allows us to access our true self. And I think also something that popped into my head, Natalie, was like that aspect of like almost perfectionism can come in and begin to like
Mhm.
really squander our capacity to mess up and to like let's say be a bad painter and have a terrible stick drawing, or because those are like the building blocks to get good, right? You have to fail in order to succeed in the first place, and existing in a space where I have to be the best at this or else why am I engaging with it at all suffocates any expression or
Mhm.
exploration or any skill building in the first place. And there's also in like the creative spaces that idea of like it's in writing, but also it pops up in other art spaces where it's kill your darlings. And what that means is
Mm.
like those things that let's
Oh,
say you
yeah.
really, let's say you're like, I'm so proud about this. And this is, I want to make sure this never ever changes. And then sometimes, especially when we're doing the exploring, things break. We have to get rid of a project. Sometimes we need to have change. And that's especially everybody knows change sucks, right? Change is so heavy and stressful. It comes with that expectation. So to almost get little like trial runs of change in a safe and low stakes environment can build up that comfortability with getting used to it in the first place. So then
Mhm.
painting a bad picture or pulling the like wrong Labubu, I don't know. But it's that aspect where it helps us get used to failing and having to adapt and getting comfortable in that space rather than keeping us ourselves locked away where the only way I engage is I have to be perfect at it and whatever the case is. But sometimes that fun, that whimsy, that excitement of it all
Yep.
just allows us to breeze past it and get more comfortable with it.
Definitely.
I think that that's interesting though, because I think like even pulling bad pulls, right? Like in a way that kind of makes collectibles a little more approachable because that's not in my control, right? I ultimately
Mhm.
pick the box that I choose, but it's all up to chance, right? It's all probability, it's all chance, right? And so it almost makes collecting culture a little more approachable because there's no way to fail because at the end of the day, it's not my fault, right?
Right.
It's not because I did anything bad. It's not because the odds are, look, it's out of my control. And so I take less personal damage if I, versus, right, like painting a bad painting, right? What does that say about me and my skills and my abilities?
Right. Definitely. My gosh. Isabella, Natalie, and Courtney, this was an amazing conversation. It was actually a very fun conversation,
Very fun.
too.
Very fun. I learned a lot.
Same here, for sure. So, thank you, all three of you, for contributing your thoughts and insights on this very interesting topic. So, appreciate it. And would love to have you all three back on for who knows, definitely another topic for sure. So,
Love to.
Sounds good.
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much.
I'd also like to thank the team behind the podcast, Juliana Whitten and Jason Clayton. Thank you for listening to Convos from the Couch. Take care, everyone.